Quark has 100 gross of self-sealing stem bolts sitting in cargo bay 11. Nog is on Ferenginar visiting his grandmother. And if never keep profit, a good smile honesty. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
What's happening?
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 3, Episode 16, Profit Motive, directed by Mr. Rene Auberjonois. How cool is that?
Oh, really?
I think it might be his first one.
It has to be, because I don't remember this before.
And written by Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf, our good buddies. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm doing good. I didn't know that Rene directed this particular episode. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I didn't either until I saw it on IMDb, and he did the classic Avery Brooks maneuver where he's like, I only have like 3 lines in this episode. This is the one I want to direct, so I can focus on directing. So I kind of watched for that, and he just had the one scene where he's like, my uncle's brother's friend has a friend who works in the thing or whatever.
Yeah, that little scene. But yeah, no, I mean, it was obviously this is another Quark episode, and a little bit of a ROM kind of centered episode as well. So it's good to see the
kind of funny. You'd call it like a rom-com, right?
It would be a rom-com.
And let's just go ahead and say it. We had 2 NAMs today. Mr. Aron Eisenberg, our favorite human on the planet, or Ferengi, out in Ferenginar. He's visiting his grandmother. And Keiko was also mentioned.
Keiko was also mentioned. She was mentioned. She was mentioned during the ribbing between Bashir and O'Brien, which I really liked that little scene.
Right. Right.
You know, O'Brien's like, people are going to ask Bashir, who the hell is he? And that kind of pissed off Bashir, so he had to get him back with so how long is Keiko going to be on Bajor?
Yeah, and then he said, Bashir's like, since Keiko's been on Bajor, we've played 106 games of racquetball, which is good for those of you keeping statistics of racquetball at home.
Yes.
106. I actually went back. I was like, did he say 100? Oh, 106. Glad I caught that.
It was funny because as I was watching that little scene, they were playing darts in it, and I was thinking, look at the futuristic dartboard that they came up with.
Yeah.
Which wasn't very futuristic at all.
I mean, how much can you improve the game?
Yeah.
What can you add to it?
What can you add to darts? Yeah.
Nebulae. Nebulae. What's the plural of nebula? Is it nebulae?
I think it's nebulae.
Paging Dr. Mohammed Noor. No, that would be an Aaron McDonald question.
Yeah, I'm going to go with nebulae. Final answer.
All right. I'm going to phone a friend, but I'm going to believe you. So that was cool. And I do want to also point out that a lot of fun Star Trek fans like to spell darts with an extra E in there because O'Brien calls it darts. We're going to play darts. DAERTS. So that's how I spelled it in my notes.
Now, the woman that you have in the background that was the purchaser of these self-sealing stem bolts.
Yeah.
First of all, I said the thing that jumped out at me was her hairdo. I thought her hair was like pretty immaculately done. I think woven in with leaves, or it looks like leaves.
Do you remember who did hair and makeup, or at least the hair aspect of hair and makeup on Deep Space Nine for characters like this?
Yes.
Was it like a special effects makeup thing, or was it just one hair person that would handle it?
No, I think the hair still fell under the makeup, so I think Westmore is still in charge of hair. But the hair trailer had its own. It had its own little trailer, so you went into the hair trailer, and then you went into the makeup trailer, and they were separate. So I can't tell you because I remember who did our hair. and that
Right.
was the late great Ron Smith.
Nice.
And Ron Smith was somebody who had worked with Avery in the past. They did A Man Called Hawk and Spencer for Hire in those days. So when Avery first got the gig on DS9, he brought Ron Smith along with him, who I had the pleasure of meeting. And he was an older guy and grew up during the Duke Ellington jazz days. So he was Duke Ellington's hair
Nice.
guy. And, Duke always had that slick, beautiful kind of conked hair.
Avery
So,
does strike me as the kind of guy that says, "I'm bringing my hair guy with me."
oh yeah,
He seems
he
like that
does.
kind of guy. Yeah.
He is. He is.
And then Ron Smith
Um,
the whole time was like, "Can I just buzz this thing yet? You guys, no." He's in Avery's like, "I already asked, not yet."
Ron was like an old school guy. Like I said, he came up from the Duke Ellington days. And by the way, he ended up passing away during the tenure of our show.
Hmm.
And I remember very vividly Avery taking care of his medical expenses and making sure that he had his own room at Cedars Sinai Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So he, upgraded his room. He made sure that he had a nice kind of going out of this world. And
That's beautiful.
those are the kinds of things Avery would do for people and not talk about. You just had to know if you knew. And so yeah, that's who did the hair. And actually, Ron Smith, before he passed away, found his own replacement, which became a guy named Brian Andrews. And Brian Andrew then finished up the rest of the 3 or 4 seasons that were left. I think he did the last 3 seasons. So we had 2 hair guys, but I don't know who was in charge of that department. But this hair in this particular episode, and this woman, and I don't know what alien she's playing.
I don't either.
But I do like her. I liked how intricate it was and how it was kind of woven in with what I thought to be leaves.
Mm.
It looks like leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see it there. Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. Yeah. And obviously, hair is such a big part of the makeup and the whole overall, costume of each character, right?
So, shout out to Ron Smith's family and to Avery being so loyal and to Brian. Who was the other guy?
Brian Andrew. Yeah.
Brian Andrew. Got it. Also, that reminds me, not to take too much of a break from hair. Actually, we'll talk about that a little later. We'll talk more about hair next week. But
okay. Right.
we will. But yeah, I don't know what kind of alien that is. But the reason I asked a little bit more about the hair thing was because I kind of wondered, like, I feel like the aliens would go kind of more to like special alien hair effects makeup, especially, I mean, something like this is not just standard hair. Whereas people like, say, yourself or like, Nana or like Terry Farrell, for example, would go to a regular hair person, not like a visual, not like a makeup effects hair person. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, well, they're using different things. So some people are actually having wigs put on, and obviously that means you have to have glue and all of these other factors, to lay down those wigs.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had one in the Far Beyond the Stars episode where I was wearing an actual hair piece to kind of give me that conk, that relaxed hair look. So I've had that applied, but yes, the regular hair people are just making sure that there's no out of place hair,
Right.
and Odo's hair is right or Nana's hair is right without looking all crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So Quark's getting Umox, and he says, what I had forgotten that he mentioned this before, but 100 gross of self-sealing stem bolts just sitting in cargo bay 11. I kind of jokingly in my notes put NAM. I was like, hey, self-sealing stem bolts get a NAM. It might be their only one.
Yeah, it might be their only one. But it's funny how many episodes ago was it that we first talked about self-sealing stem bolts?
It was the end of the first season.
I think so, right? So
yeah,
just to show you how the writers don't let things go and kind of always are bringing back things. You know, they're really good at that, especially when we saw how they introduced the Founders and the Jemadar and the Dominion. They dropped hints very early and came back to those very same hints later on.
What episode was it? Progress, the self-sealing stem bolts? I feel like it was called.
I know it was Les Landau. So
anyway,
yeah.
I think that was episode 14 of season 1, 14 out of 19. So yeah, towards the end of the first season. But that's a pretty good callback.
It's a pretty good callback. I mean, we're talking about nearly, I guess it's just 2 seasons later, right? They were midway through the first season. Now we're midway through the 3rd season. So they literally brought something back from 2 seasons ago. Just once again, like I said, testament to the writers and how they retain the information, how they like to build foundational stories for storylines, so they're built on things that the audience can recognize.
And it must be cool for you to see something that you did getting the callback without you even knowing it. Like you weren't seen in this episode, so you probably didn't even know that they brought self-sealing stem bolts back for another episode. And then so did you, when you heard that, did you catch it right away, or did you say, did I just hear what I thought I heard?
I hope they didn't bring it back because we screwed it up so much. Maybe they put it on the board like, okay, this is the one that we're going to bring back. But clear, you know, I've never heard Armin having any problems with the pronunciation. So shout out to Armin, who really did a great job in this episode. But he did a pretty good job. I mean, he didn't have problems with the pronunciation. So
I also really like the way Rom was pronouncing things. I caught myself when an actor delivers something in a way that I would have never thought, you know, because as actors, our job is to come up with an interesting way to say things. Sometimes you just say it straight up. Other times you got to deliver it in a way that's new and interesting and not necessarily obvious when you see it on the page. And that's what makes, you know, especially character actors so unique. And Rom does that so well, Max Berdenchik. And there's certain things that he would say that I catch myself pausing it and repeating it the way he says, because it's kind of like a learning experience where I'm like, I would have never thought, you know, and that's why he's such a good comedic actor, is because he is able to say things differently in a way that we wouldn't have thought, but that works. It's funny, like when he drags out one word, you know? When he
drags out one word, he does that and he almost sings the word.
Right.
You know? I can't remember it either because I thought I wrote it down in my notes, the exact same thing that you're talking about. I thought I had wrote the line down, but it was something I think around the point where they were arguing over what the rule of acquisition was, and in a rule of acquisition number 10 about greed.
Yeah, and then Quark says, greed, there's nothing else besides greed, or there's nothing beyond greed.
Yes.
Beyond greed, there's nothing beyond greed,
no, I wrote the line down, actually, the way Rom said it. He said, no, the rule of, you know, this is Quark speaking. He says, the rule of acquisition number 10 is greed is eternal, right? And Rom's response was, not anymore.
Yeah, he'll like drag out the last word of a sentence like way longer than you would ever expect. But you're like, somehow that just works for that character. Like he creates a character that way.
He does. And I really like that. I actually did write it down in my notes. But the way he said, not anymore. And he did that, I think, another time earlier in this thing when he was being accused of stealing court stuff. The way he responded was, you know, also in this kind of musical stretching out of the words. I really enjoy his performance as well.
Yeah.
And we got to see him stand up a little bit in this one, too. I mean, this is now 2 times in a row that we've seen Rom standing up to court. And I think it all, right? Yeah, so it all hinged on, I think Rom grows a set when his son tells him he wants to join Starfleet.
A set of what?
A set of lobes. A set of
Oh,
lobes.
of course. Where did I go there? You are so right.
So he grows. He shows some courage after Nog tells him that he wants to join Starfleet, and he stands up for Nog to his brother. And that, to me, it was really the beginning of Rom's kind of identifying as himself and not just as the sidekick to Quark, right?
Right. He's definitely grown. I mean, look, he's stealing from Quark, which we normally would have thought would be against his character type for two reasons. Number one, because he's been shown to be kind of a chicken. And number two, because he doesn't have the lobes for business. And stealing from his own brother is the opposite of a chicken and the opposite of not being able to do Ferengi business. That's like going in the opposite direction. So that's cool that he's growing a set of lobes, as you said. Also, just really quickly on the subject of dragging out lines for character actors, and we're going all over the place here, but I just noticed, who else does that so well was Wallace Shawn playing Grand Nagus Zek. The funniest line I think he said, or at least the funniest delivery, and it was a great line, was when he first writes, or he first hands them the new rules of acquisition that he wrote, and he says, I mean, the line is the word that made me laugh was when he says, "I hope you like them, absorb, enjoy." I'm like, absorb, like he's just like basking, just soak it up. But the way he delivers it, he goes, absorb, enjoy. Like he dragged out the enjoy. I added all these Y's on the enjoy.
Yes.
So maybe that's a Ferengi thing. Maybe they just love to drag out fun words to hammer a point home. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it certainly adds for dramatic and comedic effect. So,
right,
those are the aspects that actually change whatever the words are on the page from just something dull and maybe just informative to something that's now entertaining and kind of spiced up. And that's the credit to what the actors bring to the table.
Yeah. That is not just acting skill, but it's acting creativity. It's almost like they are rewriting a line in a way, I mean, a director, the most a director can say is, here's the mood we're trying to convey, or give me something different, or try to hit him this way, or something like that. But it's the creativity of the character actor to turn a word into something like that.
Yeah. And I know for a fact Renee, directing this episode, did not tell Wallace to say it like that.
Can you imagine, Renee? Can you say it like enjoy?
Exactly. So that's one of the and as I was watching this episode, I was thinking to myself about Aron telling us about the readings that he would do at Armin's house.
Right.
And one of the things that came out, as far as for me, I started to question whether these scenes were rehearsed with Armin at his house, because there was such a good chemistry between Max, Armin, and Wallace. The way they went, it seems like they would have rehearsed that together.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's clear, and then that kind of stuff makes a first-time director in Renee's job easier, to where he's watching them rehearse it, set rehearsal or whatever, and he's like, thank God these guys do their homework. They probably, that way he can worry about other things. He can give them adjustments here or there, but then now he can put his mind on lighting and mood and other things, because he's like, I'm working with professionals here.
Absolutely. It makes it a lot easier. And then, the story was also interesting, because here we have the introduction of the Book of Rules of Acquisition. And I don't know if Armin wrote the Rules of Acquisition book after this. Didn't he write a actual literal book?
Yeah. I mean, I've got the little book of the Rules of Acquisition. I don't even know if that's Armin that wrote them, to be perfectly honest. I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, they've got the book. The book is out. It's
Yeah.
like a little pamphlet size thing, you know. It's like a little baby Bible for them.
And do you recall if there are 285 rules as they mentioned here in this episode?
I think there are. That's the number that I think I've heard, but I don't remember if that's just because I've looked it up or because it's in the book. Um, when we take our break in a couple minutes, I'll see if I can pull it out. See if I can find it quickly and easily. But yeah, that was and the oh, by the way, that's the thing I said at the beginning, which was the line, if never keep profit, a good smile, honesty. That was from when Quark was trying to piece it together. And he's like, maybe I could smell it. Let me taste it. Hold it up to the light. You know, he was trying everything.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
I thought it was a little on the exaggerated side when he started to lick the book.
What?
A little over the top, you know. But
who do you think wrote that part? Who came up with that idea? Ira or Robert Hewitt Wolf? Or do you think that was Quark saying, can I lick it? Or do you think that was Odo saying, why don't you try licking it, Quark? Or what do you think? I feel like it was in the script.
I see. I don't think it was in the script. I think it was in like an on the stage kind of decision. Either Quark, Armin brought it up and said, "Hey, well, you know, I'm fumbling the book. What if I do this?" And Renee's like, "Yeah, do that." That's how I kind of see it unfolding.
All right, that's fun. Yeah, we'll have to ask Armin next time we see him if we remember, because you're right. You could totally picture him saying, you know, this is how I rehearsed it. What do you think? And Renee's like, oh God, that's gold. Yeah, do that.
Yeah, exactly. And it made it memorable. The other thing that I thought was funny too. I mean, we're hopping around all over the place on this one, but you know that's just how the memories come.
Right.
Quark's giggle. He did a little giggle in the beginning of this when Grand Nagus comes. He's commandeered his quarters by this point, and Quark is telling Rom, "You go talk to him, and you go tell him that he's got to find a place to stay other than my place." And Quark's hiding behind the door as the interaction happens, and then he realizes that he's in a good mood, so he makes himself known. And Grand Nagus Rom says Grand Nagus Sex says something to him like something that funny, and Quark does this really stupid out of kind of place giggle, like
I feel like I missed that. Huh.
Yeah, and it was just like I put LOL on here because it just made me laugh because it was so fabricated. It was so like, yeah, I'm just laughing to laugh. And so he did it in this weird, like high-pitched laugh that he doesn't normally use. So I laughed at that because I thought that's funny how he's just showing it. It's like a nervous kind of laugh, I guess. Like whatever you say, boss.
Hey, so we got to take our break in just a minute here. But before we do, two very quick things. Number one is those of you at home, we are dangerously, shockingly close to 10,000 subscribers. In fact, by the time you see this, we may have already gone over. But please, if you'd like to support our show, if you enjoy what we do, or if you just want to support somebody for free, say, hey, we want more Star Trek stuff out there. It's free. Just click subscribe, click the bell icon. You help us tremendously, and it costs you nothing. It costs you like a second of your time. And the other thing is, shout out to Casey Shafsky, our good friend, Mr. Casey Shafsky, who worked on Star Trek Continues, because a few days ago when there was, or maybe a week ago, when I think it was TrekCore.com was saying they were ready for Lower Decks to show up, they had a bunch of toys out, like watching the screen, and one of them looked like this. You just saw the back, they're watching the screen. And I made a comment saying, like any Star Trek nerd would say, I was like, whoa, that must be Lieutenant Picard from Tapestry. That's awesome. I had no idea they'd have a toy like that, right? That's really cool. And of course it is, Will. It's me from Tapestry. and so the next day, Casey Shafsky shows me a screenshot where he found the toy online and had it mailed to me. And so shout out to Casey Shafsky for just being a cool guy. And now I have a Captain Picard or a Lieutenant Picard toy. Dude, it's a great episode. You got, I can't wait for you to see it. It's called Tapestry. It's one of my favorite Next Generation episodes. Anyway.
Is that a mirror universe thing, or is that just a normal?
Kind of. It's a Q thing. Q always messes with things. You know how he does.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so we will talk more about everything on the other side. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule.